Oh, I better do my pen before I forget. Hey everybody, welcome back. Rebecca here on Spirituality What? I am here with my good friend Jake, and we are going to talk about massages, massage therapy, being a massage therapist. So, Jake, if you could introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Jake Kelly. I am a native of Colorado Springs and been working here as a massage therapist for the better part of 24 years. And let's see, massage is a big part of my life, and I think of my spiritual teacher. One of my main spiritual teachers is a Tibetan man named Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, and and he likes to talk about how when we are introducing ourselves, and say we're on a plane and we introduce ourselves to the person that we've never met that's next to us in the seat, and the inevitable question is, what do you do? Basically, who are you?
Yes.
By what do you do?
What do you do?
And he's the one that introduced the idea a little more deeply to me that maybe we're not just what we do. And so, even though I am a massage therapist with air quotes here.
Yeah.
That's not all I am. That's part of what I do, but somehow spirituality weaves in my life, at least, through that, as well as a lot of other aspects of my life.
Awesome. Nice. Well, welcome. We're really excited to have this conversation today. And today I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask all of the interviewees, which is, what does spirituality mean to you?
All right. So spirituality to me it's a big question.
It's a very big question.
Right. So for me, I think of spirituality as kind of what I was saying before, as this blanket of energy that is below the surface of everything that we touch in our lives. And once in a while, if we're fortunate, we're awake to it being there.
Okay. Awesome. I like that. It is in everything. I think for me, so my definition of spirituality, what spirituality was to me, was kind of genuine connection. So connection with everything, and which has, but like real connection, like real, it's hard, like what does that mean, connection, but like a deeper level sort of connection with things.
I like that.
I like that. I can't remember who I was talking to recently, but we were talking about spirituality, and I was like, it's just energy. Like science, energy, spirituality, like it all just kind of goes together. It's like the fabric that weaves everything together.
Sure.
In my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Cool. Okay, so let's get back a little bit to sort of this connection of massage in your life and spirituality. So you said you've been into massage for about 24 years. So what got you into massage? What is the backstory there?
It's kind of an interesting story. So I was a bit of a troubled youth, and didn't do well in school.
Okay.
And had a lot of, I don't know, bad times.
Okay.
In high school.
Okay.
Dropped out, dropped back in.
Okay.
Went to different schools. Finally got my GED. And went to night school to have credits toward graduating and actually walking with a class that was behind what would have been my normal class. So anyway, all that to say that I wasn't on a good path in my life, and I was really confused. And I was living at home in my early 20s, and one day my mom says to me, as she's headed out the door to work, and I'm coming home. I had a part-time job at UPS at the time, and I was coming in from my early shift at UPS, and she was going out the door, and she said, why don't you, try to do something with your life today. And she just kind of offhandedly says, why don't you go to massage school or something? Like go check this out, because in our family we would give back rubs, and she said, you've always been good at back rubs, at shoulder rubs, so maybe you could be a massage therapist. And for some reason, maybe another day that wouldn't have stuck.
But
it really hit.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, huh. Something about that moment, I was ripe to hearing that which she had to say, which the universe had to say through her, perhaps.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yep.
And maybe not. I'm not of the belief that everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
I think like some dreams mean big things,
Sure.
and some dreams are just dreams.
Sure.
You know, and that kind of life is like that for me too. At least that's how I see it. And that was like a big dream moment where it's like, okay,
there are those
here's a
pivotal
choice.
tipping point moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
Yeah, so I went out and I researched. I made some calls and I looked at schools that day, and I ended up getting enrolled by the end of the week.
Wow.
Yeah, so it meant something to me.
Yeah, so that was a pretty big change.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does massage school look like?
Well, in the year 2000.
long ago.
When we were thinking like all the computers were going to
Yes,
crash.
Y2K. Yeah.
It was a much different experience probably than it is today.
Yeah.
Education has come a long way, and I think greatly due to information being disseminated a lot more through the internet now. We have a lot more access to cool stuff. But back then, it was really it was much like a pretty fully loaded college course, the one that I took here in Colorado Springs, for 9 months. It was a 9-month course, 1,100 hours to get accredited by the city. It was city licensed at the time. Now it's state licensed, and they've rolled it back to 500 hours, which is kind of a standard. So at that time, school in Colorado Springs for massage was probably one of the better places to receive your education in the States. So I took on this commitment that I never even had ever done anything like that before.
An educational commitment.
And like I said, I kind of sucked at school.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal for me to stick with it. There were classes. So there were basically I got my certification in 4 different modalities of massage. And it went deep tissue, neuromuscular therapy, it went sports massage, and Swedish massage. Were all kind of like different courses along the way. And then there was anatomy and physiology with every term as well. And then also we had clinic hours that we had to finish. We had to like go into this it was a massage clinic at the school there that was supervised, and so it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
That is a lot of work. Yeah. Is that normal, or is that you have all these modalities, that you do all of these all at once?
For me, it's not really like that anymore. Okay, so that was my school experience, right? One of the other things, I'll get back to that. I'm sorry. One of the other things that really was pivotal in that school experience for me, though, I should mention now because we're talking about spirituality, is that one of my teachers was a Reiki practitioner. And I got introduced to the term Reiki. I'd never even heard the word Reiki before. And really, my friend who I went to school with here in Colorado Springs and lives in Japan now and speaks fluent Japanese would say it's Deiki. Don't say Reiki. It's Deiki. And I'm like, okay, Deiki. But I say Reiki for just about everybody in America knows the word Reiki now. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Anyway, she had a studio space. I went to see her, and she woke me up to this phenomenon that is Reiki. I was laying on her table, and I could feel when she had her hands over me, lights in my body. I don't know how to describe it.
Interesting. Okay.
But it felt beneficial, and I felt very at ease, and like, oh yeah, I want to know more about this. Yeah. So it woke me up to this idea of energy. Which is synonymous with spirit for me. Yeah. And so, anyway, that's that. As far as each of the modalities in a massage, I don't do like by the book massage.
Okay,
That's
that's
just
true.
not
It's
me.
very true. I will go ahead and say my personal experience. Although I love the massages that Jake does. You can get a by the book massage from you if you want.
Sure. Yeah. And some
But
people do.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
that's what they come for.
Exactly. But I would say that is not the experience that I have. Jake offers things like Reiki and sound and all of these other opportunities. Sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they go really well together, right? And so Jake puts all of these together into one kind of massage experience.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I focus on with people, is connecting with the individual, because as I think of it, every body has a specific energetic signature, and it's mutable and it changes and it flows and ebbs. And as we're in a room together, even right now, you and I, we're talking and we're relating to things and we're connecting, and it's like our higher selves are dancing.
Yeah, totally.
And in a bodywork session, it's very similar. So one person is not going to get the same massage as another person because we're not going to relate the same way.
And even more intimate, maybe, right? Because there is that aspect of, touching and really getting in there. I feel like, especially with Jake, but I would say most really good massage therapists, I feel like they can like look at your body and then poke you and be like, oh, this is where it hurts, and you're like, oh my god, yes, exactly, and like Jake is exactly like that too. I feel like you barely touch my back and then you're like, oh, is this where it is? And I'm like, oh god, how do you know? Like, how can you tell? Yeah, exactly.
It was talking to me.
Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you went to school, you had this sort of formalized training, and part of that training you were open to Reiki, and I think it's really interesting. I'm thinking in my head, I don't know exactly when it was that I learned about Reiki, but I feel like in the U.S., maybe more specifically, it wasn't very common 25 years ago.
No, much less so, yeah.
Yeah. So you had this experience with this Reiki teacher. That was during your formal training. Okay. So you graduated their program. How did you go from formalized training with like just this one little drop of cool, okay, here's this other energy stuff, to the cool experience that you offer now?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, it wasn't something that I meant to do.
Okay.
It wasn't something that just happened overnight, for sure. It's been a process. It's still processing. And I think it will till the day I die, and maybe beyond, who knows. But what happened there was, I think my mind got opened to other levels of reality that I kind of already was dabbling in through more westernized spirituality traditions like paganism, Wicca, and things like that, which I also had a strong interest in my 20s, kind of right through the same time frame as this. But what that experience with Reiki did was it kind of began to open me to the Eastern traditions more, and that's something that I had no experience with.
Okay.
And I really gravitated toward, once I started looking into what Reiki was. I started doing some research because I'm kind of a slow burn kind of person.
Okay.
So when I do something, it takes me a long time to even figure out that I want to do it, and then it takes even longer to do something about that. Okay. But once I do it and once I commit to it, yeah, it's like that becomes me.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Is like it showed me Taoism, and I was like, oh, cool, what's that? And it showed me Buddhism. Yeah. And I was and every step along this path, I started to see and hear and feel things that were like little bits of me that I didn't know existed were waking up.
Oh, interesting.
And like they've been here forever, and I just didn't know it. But now that they're here, it's like, oh, what else can we find? And they showed me gifts for my own life and things that I could share with others. And one of the gifts that this whole process kind of unlocked within me, I don't know if that sounds like the right term for me.
Well, and I just wrote down the word gateway.
Right?
Yeah, like right. It feels like, based on what you're saying, that it was like a gateway, like it was an opening, it was an unlocking of just a little smidge of something to kind of get the right energy.
Yeah, and then the door cracks open and
Yeah.
there's a light shining through.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you get curious.
Right.
And you want to like, can I fit through there?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So what I noticed started happening as I'm starting to do massage more now, and even my career, as I started getting into the professional work of massage, it took off slowly because I didn't know a damn thing about marketing.
Business.
Business was a whole nother game,
different.
right?
Yeah, totally.
And I had to learn that along the way, and I've gotten pretty good at balancing what it is to do this kind of intimate, even spiritual work at times, and make a living at it, which can be a real bugger for some people. But sound work began to blossom and
let's talk about that.
and just happen.
So what do you mean when you say sound work? What is, give folks who are listening a little like definition or context.
Okay, so when I would be working with people, not everybody, but certain people, and it feels like there's a certain kind of openness from the person that's on the table or on the chair. I was doing a lot of chair massage at the time, and it's like a resonant frequency is how it seems with that part of me, that higher self that wants to do the dance in me. And that person's like, yeah, something in them is like, yes, let's dance.
Like it's okay. Yeah.
And so when it felt like that was happening, I would just open my mouth and sounds would start coming. And it sounds really strange, I know, but it was kind of like that Reiki experience where, like, I didn't know what it was, but it felt right.
Sure. Yeah. So you were going. You didn't know how to do what you were doing or why you were doing it exactly, except that it felt like the right thing to do in the moment. And then when you did it, you're like, oh, this actually feels good.
And there's confirmation. Yeah, it was like intuition pushing me, and if I had the courage to answer and like speak in a soul language somehow, what was there from the heart, then it was answered with opening. On different levels in the other person. So can I just give you like a little
I love
example?
That. Yes,
okay,
exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So because people are like, okay, what does this mean? Sound work probably. So a lot of times it would come with touch, but sometimes it would come, not from touch, but just like an area of the body, and I would feel something, and all of a sudden be like. Something like that would come out of me.
Oh, yes, and yes, I have been a recipient of said sound work. It is very interesting, and I even felt it now. I'm like, I wish there was some sort of like way I could change the camera so that you could like see it, but there's a vibration. There's a vibration that goes with that, and it's even stronger when you're touching on your skin. It's so cool. Yeah, and it sounds cool, right, guys? I think it sounds really cool anyway. It was really cool to see you do it because I don't usually see you. I'm on the table, so I don't usually see you.
Get your eyes closed or something. Well, and the thing about sound work is once I started doing that, I had to chase it down. I had to know more. I started doing this at the Metaphysical Fair in Colorado Springs. I would go twice a year to these metaphysical fairs in Colorado Springs, twice a year in Denver, and set up my little booth and had my chair and would see people and give them little 20-minute chair massage sessions. And that's where the sound really wanted to come through in that kind of environment that was conducive.
Right, that was like very open and ready for that.
Yeah, and like almost everybody that sat on that chair was ready for something like that. Yeah. So I got to hone that in a way, but I also got to be around other practitioners. I was up on the stage of the City Auditorium here, where the healing center was, and I was next to this lady who became my mentor because we traded, and she's like, "You're working with energy.
That's cool.
Do you know what energy is?"
Right.
I'm like, not really.
I just feel it. I'm just into it, but I don't really get it yet. Yeah.
So she took it upon herself to to invite me to kind of have a little crash course in energy and show me some things, and even go as far as to give me initiations into Reiki
Oh, nice.
and other things,
Okay, cool.
other modalities. So, and then shared all of her books. I loved how this lady Ginger, she was just this open source.
Mhm.
Like everything that she had, she just wanted to give it to
Oh,
me,
cool.
and it wasn't about money.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that about that whole circumstance. But she helped me grow immeasurably, and that was the beginning of my traditional Reiki training,
Okay.
or any kind of putting that energy into a form.
Yeah.
And it kind of had to be into a form to find a way to learn more about it, so that I could then take the form off and let it be free to grow on its own.
Totally.
I feel like I'm going on and on
No,
about
this
this
is-
passion.
This is perfect. No, this is great. I love this. And I think that one of the most unique parts, there's quite a few unique parts, and I'm sure we'll get to them, but one of the most unique parts about getting a massage with you is that sound aspect. And I feel like you've hummed before, too.
Yeah.
You've done some humming before, too, but it's like, it's just hard to explain. You can literally feel the vibrations in your body. Like, there's no other way to explain it. Like, it's like cutting through something. It's getting to somewhere that, like, your physical hands can't really get to. It's getting deeper. I don't know, but you can feel a difference.
Yeah, no, the way that I think about it and explain it to people, especially if there's somebody on the table that has never experienced this before, and maybe it's a little weird, or like, what is this? I've never had anybody do that. I say that this is like massage, only without touch so much, and it goes to places where I can't touch,
Right, exactly,
and it kind of connects more.
Exactly.
And the experience is really the only thing that can explain it.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Because words can't do it.
Exactly. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you've got regular, like, hand touch massage. You've got the sound work.
Sure.
You had this cool mentor. So how did you get to light language?
Light language. No, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, so I think that's not separate from the sounds that were bubbling up to begin with.
It's just more conformed.
Yeah, it's somehow got to a place where it could express more intricately. And I had to go through stages to ready myself for that to come through, is what it feels like. And to be able, part of that was to have the courage to allow.
It's a super vulnerable. Like you are, when you are doing any of these parts of this experience that are above and beyond just like the regular touch of massage, for me, it's a very vulnerable experience for you especially, also for the person on the table, but definitely for you. There's a lot of trust.
Sure.
There's a lot of trust there.
Yeah. Well, and at first, it was not pretty. Like there were some times where I would be learning some things like Jonathan Goldman's vowel sounds, for instance, which I love. And Jonathan Goldman is also a mentor of mine, a sound healer from way back, and he's like rooted in Boulder. But his book introduced me to some ideas before I got a chance to meet him later on, and it was like I would try to like put these concepts into practice in the session before I had practiced them enough, probably on my own, and it was a little awkward. And you could feel that, and the person on the table could feel it too. And so there wasn't that confidence that comes with experience. And so that's when things can get a little shaky.
Yeah.
It's like when you're trying out new things, but you have to do it
You have to do it at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what other unique things do you offer in your massage experiences currently?
Well, in recent years, gosh, everything changed so much during COVID times. It feels like 3 years just disappeared. So maybe it's not as recent as I think it is. About 10 years ago, I I really started getting interested in myofascial work.
Yes. So what does that mean?
So myofascia is just a fancy way to talk about connective tissue.
Okay.
Myo means muscle. If you've ever seen like a steak, right, from the butcher, and it's raw, and you lay it out, you're gonna throw it on the grill or something, and you see the white stuff and you see the red stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
The red is obviously the meat. That's the muscle tissue. The white is fascia.
Mm-hmm.
There's also going to be fat in
Yeah.
there. There's also going to be maybe sometimes connective tissue, you know, that is not fascia. But it is what we call the extracellular matrix of the body, and it is everywhere from your vital organs to your bones, and it's interconnected through everything.
It's like around everything,
Yeah.
right?
And kind of through it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like the silver on like roast beef?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does myofascial work mean?
So myofascial work means, well, basically, anymore I think of it as you can't touch a body or move a body without touching or moving myofascia because it's everywhere.
Yeah, totally.
But it's all about intention, about maybe trying to get a pattern of movement through a chain of, say, the arm, chain of joints.
Okay.
That's how I think of it, is like I'll pull on somebody's arm and I'll feel like it's constricted there and there and there, and then I'll work in different ways, twisting around the elbow, around the wrist, and maybe up here at the shoulder a little bit to get these points on lines that are all connected all the way down to open up, and the range of motion frees up, vascular movement frees up, neural movement frees up. All sorts of things can be benefited from this kind of work.
So you have to study a lot for that more.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different slice of anatomy and physiology that we didn't learn in school.
Yeah.
But now, like I was saying, it's like these are the enlightened times. They do teach this stuff in school, in regular massage school. So it's cool. It's really good.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So myofascial work. I mean, fascia, I feel like for me that's where the actual massage is. Like, you know, I feel like that's where all my problems have been. You know, like, yes, muscles, but like more than just that. And so I feel like it's an important part of massage. In my experience, at least.
That's great to hear. Like, I don't think a lot of people that receive massage know about it.
Mm-hmm.
It falls under the category of structural integration a lot of times. So more people I think have heard of Rolfing, and Rolfing is another structural integration. It's like the grandmother of all structural integration.
Okay.
And this Dr. Ida Rolf, she was this brilliant woman who she's been working since like the 60s, doing this way ahead of its time work with people. And so now I'm working with Tom Meyer's work, and he's like a student of Ida Rolf, and he's in his 70s, and it's like so it's like it's been a long time in the coming to make it where it is to almost mainstream.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think more people know about it now than they used to.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say that Jake's massage practice is very unique. Although you can do some, you know, maybe less exciting massages, in my opinion, if people are looking for that.
Yeah.
But it can be a very different kind of massage experience. So as the massage therapist, what is your experience giving sort of a more traditional deep tissue, sports massage, whatever, versus this unique Jake Kelly massage experience that you've created? Like, how does that feel for you?
Well, I have to say that I cheat a little bit.
Oh, okay. Like, what does cheating look like?
So, I'll listen to what the person wants, and I'll kind of repeat it back to them, just so I get the idea of where in their bodies they're feeling constricted, or what they need and where it's at, and I'll get in there and do my thing. And it's it's like pieces of all that stuff
Yeah.
that from all my training, but it ends up being something more. And when it comes down to it on the physical level, that's what these people are usually
Yeah.
looking for, is a good physical massage.
Yeah.
Especially
And
like
release.
athletes
Yeah,
for a
of
sports
course.
massage.
Yeah.
It's fascia. It is. It's
Yeah.
like you're saying, it's all in the fascia.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is myofascial work,
Yeah.
and maybe I'll sneak a little energy work in by gently suggesting that they breathe all the way into their heart. No, I don't call it the heart. I call it their core.
Yeah.
And then breathe out slowly
Yeah.
to get them connected with their body and letting go of any tension, because the more that they can be relaxed,
That's true.
the deeper I can get
Yeah.
in with the work.
Absolutely.
And that's energy.
Yeah,
That's
it
all.
is.
That's
It
all it
is.
is.
So you kind of, even though you might not give them the full Jay Kelly experience, there you still are always bringing in the energy work into your massages.
Yeah. And sometimes the sound will want to peek out, and sometimes I'll let it, but it'll come out as a sigh instead of like, that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's a little bit more reserved in those cases.
Yeah.
So, because you're still giving the energy aspect of the massage, it is that, like, it's still a very rewarding experience for you. That's what I'm kind of getting down.
Yeah.
Still,
no, I love it.
you're not having these experiences where you feel like you can't be you in the massage room because you can't do the energy because you're just doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say it's very few and far between anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm very intentional about the kind of people that I draw in too.
Totally, yeah. Well, your vibe attracts your tribe. I feel like I've said that with a bunch of other people recently, but it's like you're offering this unique experience, and people who already have a certain level of openness to this type of experience are probably being drawn to you as well, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And I put it out there. I've done coaching work, and I've done all sorts of self-improvement and intentional work to specifically attract the kind of clientele that I want to work with.
Well, going to the metaphysical fair, for example, right?
Exactly.
Like that's a great way, a great place to find people who would be into like a weird massage. It's not weird. I don't think it's weird. I think it's great. And I think the definition of weird is weird.
Oh, that's a high compliment. I love weird. Yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day, I was talking about the podcast, and they were like, "What's the weirdest thing that you believe in?" And I was like, I don't think any of the things I believe in are weird. I was like, I don't know. Like, what's weird to you? Like, are aliens weird to you, or like what's the definition of weird here? Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, what's the weirdest thing you believe in?
Oh, geez, I think that weird is relative, just like normal is relative.
Yeah, exactly.
The weirdest thing, you already touched on it probably. Like the weirdest thing that I would be reserved in talking about with just anybody, like a new client right off the bat, would be like light language. Yeah. But
I don't think that's
in everyday life,
yeah,
I'm so used to it as a part of me that I'm basically masking for the masses.
Yeah, totally. You're just reserved. You're just a little more reserved. Yeah. So we haven't talked about light language on the podcast before. So you did a little bit of it, but like, what does that mean to you exactly?
Well, okay, so here it is. The way that you and I are talking right now, we are using a language that is decided upon, that is a format that we can relate information in a utility way, right? Between people, between groups of people, and it's very important. That being said, this language is illusory. In my way of thinking about things, it's real, but it is symbolic.
Okay.
Purely, we have decided that these sounds, these symbols that we use as language, they mean things. We have assigned meaning to them, right? So when we take it into light language comes out as like speaking in tongues, right? It comes out as these sounds that are unfamiliar, that I don't even know what I'm saying except for the feeling of it.
Yes.
And it's more, dare I say it, pure
than
normal
Sure,
language,
sure.
quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really more about feeling
Yeah.
rather than anything else.
Right. And that feeling is the connection
Mm-hmm.
that you spoke of at the beginning.
Yeah. It's kind of channeled.
It is channeled.
Yeah.
It is. It's a connection with something greater than me.
Totally.
Greater than you, greater than us, but it's here too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's always here.
Mm-hmm.
We're just hearing it sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure. Yeah. Or not tuned in.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes maybe a person will go through their whole lives and not be tuned in. I think that's a real shame.
Yeah.
That's sad for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Somebody showed me a video recently of this woman chanting, singing, maybe both a little bit in light language. And of course it's very unique. And I feel in my experience with light language, whenever anyone is speaking or singing light language, it's always very different.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at her and you use this like analytical brain, you're like, oh, interesting. But then I closed my eyes. And it was like, I literally, and I'm getting goosebumps again, and I literally could just feel like just this warmth wash over me and just like, it felt so ancient, but also new at the same time. Like it was a lot of really interesting kind of conflicting feelings and emotions that I was getting, all good.
Yeah.
But it was like a really interesting experience.
I like that.
And it was fucking gorgeous. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like once I was able to sort of get out of my head, I was like, could really appreciate it.
Sure.
It was really cool.
I like what you said, that it felt ancient and new at the same time. Yeah,
it was
that kind of dialectical reality.
Yeah, it was like really confusing when I was able to finally put together what I was like feeling there, and I was like, it's like old and futuristic and new, and I was like, it's like I can feel from a long time ago, but also it's like transcendent time, basically, is kind of what it felt like.
Oh, interesting. I love that. Yeah, it's the ancestors from both ways.
Yeah, it was like everything all at once, but when I was feeling it. But also, she just had, her voice was amazing. She had an amazing voice too, but yeah, it was really cool. It was very interesting. Yeah. Okay, so as a practitioner, you bring energy and thus spirituality to all of your massages, and you just are then able to express it to varying degrees.
I suppose that's a good way of saying it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
So, do you ever get massages?
Oh, I get massage all the time. Okay. Whenever I can.
Okay.
Whenever I can. Yeah.
So, how is that experience for you on a spiritual perspective, getting a massage?
Oh, it depends on where I'm at. Sometimes, like in recent times, I've been going through a lot in my personal life, and I find that when I'm stressed out, and if I'm not in the right headspace to go receive a massage, I get less out of it.
Sure.
And then I'm like, inevitably, like halfway through, or maybe the last 5 minutes, I'm like, oh God, I forgot to do the thing.
I forgot to breathe. I forgot
my
to
intention to receive well what I can from this massage experience. And so that just tells me that I haven't been practicing enough. I haven't been getting enough massage. I haven't been doing my spiritual practice enough. So
a little distracted, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what disconnection is as far as spiritual distraction goes. Like, we're disconnected. I think that you hit it on the head. Yeah, I was distracted.
I was listening to something today about presence, and I can't remember the woman's name. And she was just talking about how when like distraction, I'm like completely butchering what she said, but distraction gets us away from presence, just in general. Like if you're distracted, or like she was saying, like when you're moving too quickly or something, like you're distracted from the present moment, from presence, and that's when you like forget things, and you're going on a trip and you forget to pack 10 things, and it's because you were like not present with your packing. You were distracted by a bunch of other things. It's just hard to be present and distracted, which you basically say, like, if you're getting a massage, you're getting a physical benefit. You're always going to get a physical benefit.
Sure.
You're probably even going to get an energetic, even unintended energetic benefit, right?
Yeah, you're right.
But you can't get as into it. You're not as open because you're just, floating around out here.
Right. Presence. That's what it's all about. When somebody's in front of me on the table and I'm there, I don't want to chit chat.
It's true. Yeah, you're right.
I'll entertain that,
Yeah.
and we'll talk sometimes, especially if it's you,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I haven't seen you in a while. We got some things to catch up
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
We'll get that out of the way, and then we're into it, and like I will intentionally bring language into the mix to bring them back into their body,
Yeah,
especially if they're chatting.
Yeah.
And get them to breathe and remember what it is to be in their body, so I can be present with them, and then we're present together, and if we're on the same page with that presence and that energy moving in the same direction, big things can happen.
So do you feel a difference in the muscles and the fascia when you're giving a massage to somebody who's chatty versus somebody who is deep breathing and connected in their body?
Oh yeah. Moreover, I'm not going to say always.
Sure.
Some people are really good at being both.
Mm.
They can be in their body and talking away, and like in a moment, like, oh yeah, right there, and know what's going on in the session. Moreover, though, what I notice is people that are kind of in their head a lot, and their words are coming out a mile a minute or something. That's and I can do that. Don't get me wrong.
Totally.
When I get distracted or when I get disconnected, but I've gotten better at snapping back into it. Oh, there's my breath. I remember. Oh, I have a body.
Yeah. Oh yeah, breathing. Like I forgot I was doing that.
But yeah, it feels like they're probably holding tension more often, that they don't know is there because they're not as aware of what's going on in their body.
Got it. Yeah. So you might see a difference. Okay. So you as a practitioner mostly have spiritual energetic massage experiences, and as a recipient of massages you kind of go both ways.
Yeah, well,
just depending on where you're at.
I've been fortunate enough to run into enough people in my career that I trade. I usually trade with massage therapists.
I love that.
Massage therapists always trade with each other. It's
Perfect.
just a thing we do,
great.
And so I like attracts like. A lot of times
totally.
we run into each other, and
sense.
It's like magnetism. Okay, well, energy,
Good fit.
There we are. And so I've gotten a lot of great energy massages from a lot of great practitioners, and not one of them is the same. That's the cool thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. It is really interesting. I was in a car accident in 2010, and you know this, but I spent years. I don't know how many massage therapists I saw. And it does take, I feel like massage therapists are like regular therapists. It can take about as long to find a good massage therapist fit as it can to find a regular therapist fit, because they're just, everyone's motivated in a different way for it, right? Like, I can't not even remember the name of the place. I'm not bad-mouthing Massage Envy here. I'm just going to use that. It was like a chain that I went somewhere when I was on a trip, and I was just like, this just wasn't, I'm sure I got a physical benefit, but I just wasn't into it. It was like, didn't do it.
It's hit or miss, right? Yeah, that's what I hear about chains, right? Like, you never know what you're going to get.
Right, exactly. And so it can be very interesting. So I guess what recommendations would you give to somebody who's like on the hunt for a Jake Kelly experience, but they don't live in Colorado Springs?
All right, so they're looking for.
They're maybe looking for a little bit more.
Massage.
Maybe like, are they looking for? Would somebody advertise like Reiki and massage therapy, and maybe that's like a good fit? Or like, I don't even know what honestly, I have your business card in my wallet, but I've never even looked at it. Like, what is your business card?
I've stopped looking at it. I don't even know what it says anymore.
How would somebody know that they can get this additional experience with you?
That's an interesting question. Honestly, most of my business comes from word of mouth anymore.
True. That makes sense.
Well, that's not true. The internet has brought me a lot of new clients in recent years, but what it does is it refers them to my website, and I have an informational website which gives people a big clue as to how
it gives them more insight into sort of the type of experience.
Yeah. I would say do your research a little bit. You don't have to dig for hours to find what you need to find, and trust what you see and how it responds, how you respond to it. Like the first time.
Your instincts.
Listen to it.
But you bring up a really good point, which is like the technology we have now allows massage therapists, sort of business owners to express more of what it is that they do ahead of time.
Sure.
In words that fit with their style, right? And if you don't vibe with the bio online, you might not actually vibe with the person then
There you
either,
go.
like, in person.
Yeah. I found it's interesting. I found that even the colors that I've chosen, I didn't know that I was choosing them from a place of wisdom, if you will. At the time, I was just like, oh yeah, I like those colors, you know. But it turns out that those are the colors that I've heard people say, you know, your card attracted me or your website attracted me because the colors. And it's interesting, even something like that, like the vibration of the light on the website or on the card, you know. Doesn't matter what the words said.
Right. I'm like, oh, I like the colors. I like that. I'm like, what colors are they? I have your card in my wallet, but like, what colors?
Well, I tend toward these kind of like tealy blues.
I was like, jewel tones is what I sort of got in my head when you were like colors. I was like,
and
oh, like
violets and
nice,
purples,
okay.
you know, and different things.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I think what I'm hearing you say, and this vibes with what we've gotten from a lot of our other episodes, is as it's really up to the person and their state of mind whether massage would be a spiritual experience for them. But for you, as the practitioner, it kind of always is.
Yeah, I think that's... I'm not going to say that I'm always on my game
100%. Of course. I mean, sometimes we're all doing a little bit better than other days, of course. But
like if I'm tripping over my feet, running up the stairs, and like spilling my coffee because I'm 10 minutes late, it might be a little bit off. But you know, most of the time, it only takes me a few minutes to get into the zone once I get there.
Yeah. So, okay, so now we're saying go look online, look at people's websites to sort of find this experience. So in the experience, if someone's like, okay, I've just I've had like quote normal, like non-experienced massage, I've had regular massages. If they're maybe with a massage therapist who is not offering these kind of cool experiences, what suggestions would you have for them to maybe connect to their spirituality or to make a deeper connection with the massage?
Sure. Well, if people are interested in trying to find a deeper experience with their massage and they're not feeling like they're getting what they want where they're at, I say don't be afraid to experiment. I also say maybe don't look outside yourself so much and find a breathing practice or a yoga class, something that will get you in touch with your body, because that's the other side of what I do. I consider body work twofold.
Okay.
There's active and there's passive. And passive is what I do for people.
Right.
And active is what you do for yourself.
Right.
And I think that active body work is, I'm not sure exactly how much more important, but it's more important.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's not that it's not important to get that perspective of how does my body move and feel when I'm not the one putting the tension through it to produce the movement, you know, because that's a valuable perspective. But it's more important to know your interior. And so, you know, do some breath work.
Yeah. Well, and you did kind of mention that earlier, which is like connecting, like recognizing the breath, being aware of the breath. And I think you do that every single massage. Like you start with that, right?
For
like
sure.
I'm trying to, it's been a while since I've had a massage, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure I remember you saying like, you know, take a deep breath, you know, make sure you imagine the air going into like all the parts of your body or whatever. Like it's like this really conscious, focused, aware, present breathing activity kind of at the beginning, which to me is like the beginning of the meditation anyway. But
it's become a ceremony. Yeah, I start and end my massages with bits of ceremony. You know, like I brought this. Can I ring it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the other part of sound healing for me, is using tools. I have a Tibetan singing bowl here. It's one of the like traditional style 7 metals bowls that I bought at Jonathan Goldman Retreat, and I really love it. So I'm just gonna ring it. Hopefully it'll come through on the microphone. But one of my spiritual teachers, very famous Zen monk Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen master, he talks about the bell of mindfulness. We ring it to bring ourselves back home. So when we hear the bell, it's an invitation to come back home to ourselves. And so this is what I ring before and after every session, just about.
Yeah, definitely felt the vibrations on that one. But also I heard like multiple different sounds at the same time.
Did you? Oh, yeah.
It
You're
was
getting into the harmonics.
really interesting. I was like, I don't know if I've noticed that before.
Yeah. You want to hear it again?
Yeah,
Can I ring it again?
let's
Okay,
do it.
let's listen for the multiple layers of sound. I'll ring it a little louder.
Yeah, it's like an echo almost or something.
Yes.
Super unique.
So it really has a lot going on there. I've put a tuner on before because I'm kind of a nerd. Like I play guitar and I've got this little tuner that you can like put on things and it feels it and it records the vibration. It tells you what hertz it is, and it also tells you in the letter and like the pitch. And I counted 7 different pitches.
It like jumps around like crazy. Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there, and every sound. Think about this: that even as we're speaking with our voices, the sounds that we're using, even though we're using words, they have these multiple layers of harmonic frequencies. Not just the format that you would say this is the pitch. Yeah. But all of the layers up and down from there that are subtle. Some are so subtle you can't hear them because we're limited beings, right? But it's all soaking in. So when somebody comes into the room and they're like, F this and I don't like that, they're really putting out a kind of energy, not just with what they're saying, but with their
presence,
their very sound.
Exactly.
And if you're talking to me and you're trying to kind of convey a peaceful presence and a connection, the tone of voice and the words you choose, even the way you breathe and the cadence that you use, they're all sound healing aspects of sound.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. No, this is great. We're definitely I'm on the lookout. I definitely want to do some episodes on frequency and sound and song and music. Like there's a lot. There's a ton of opportunities there. So more to come on those. But this has been a really great conversation so far.
Yeah.
We're about at time.
I'm loving it.
So I wanted to kind of just wrap up with just what is one tip that you have about living as a spiritual being in this human form that you would like to share with listeners?
Yeah, I've said it again and again already.
It's okay.
Breathe. It's not just breathe, it's be aware, it's bring presence. That's connection with yourself, and actually feel your breath as you sit, as you move, as you drive.
It's such an unconscious activity. Like we would die if we didn't do it, right? So like it has to be something that our body can do without us really paying attention.
Absolutely.
But it's a game changer when you pay attention to your breath, even just for 2 breaths, even just for 1 breath.
Yeah.
It can. And we talked about this a little bit on the last episode with Dr. Deb, and she was saying that what she does, is pause, breathe, become aware, and it's like you only have to take just 1 deep breath, and then you're in the moment, you're present, you're paying attention.
Right. Yeah, and it changes all of your biofrequencies.
Yeah.
If you're on track with it, if you track it,
you're really into it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Jake. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah.